I never thought I'd bury my own mother's financial secrets deeper than she buried mine. But when I drained her life savings into a black hole of bad debt she couldn't trace, I watched her face crumple like the foreclosure notice I'd forged in her name. The wedding dress I'd dreamed of since I was a kid, ivory silk, simple and timeless, hung in my closet like a ghost. Its tag still dangling because Mom had siphoned every penny of my fund to bail out my deadbeat brother, leaving me to explain to my fiancé why our future evaporated overnight. And the kicker? When she finally cornered me, demanding answers with that shrill voice that once commanded boardrooms, I slid my credit report across the table, pristine, unbreakable, and her silence hit harder than any scream, because she knew I'd turned her empire of lies into my weapon of quiet ruin. They say blood is thicker than water, but in my family, it's more like blood is the ink we use to rewrite each other's stories, usually at someone else's expense. I'm Alina Reyes, 31 years old, raised in the sprawling suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona, where the sun scorches your skin by day and the AC hums like a guilty conscience all night long. My life was supposed to be the American dream on a budget, a steady job as a paralegal in a mid-tier firm downtown, a fiancé named Jake who fixed cars for a living but dreamed of opening his own shop, and a savings account fat with $45,000 I'd scraped together over 7 years. Every overtime shift, every skipped vacation, every freelance gig typing up depositions at midnight, it was all for that one day when I'd walk down the aisle without a mountain of student loans chaining me down. Mom, Victoria Reyes, the queen of reinvention, had other plans. She was the kind of woman who could charm a room full of venture capitalists one minute and ghost her own kids the next. Divorced from Dad when I was 10, he bailed for Vegas, chasing blackjack highs instead of family lows. She clawed her way up from real estate agent to property mogul, flipping foreclosures in the valley like they were poker chips. But beneath the power suits and the fake tans, she was a master at selective memory. Like the time when I was 16, she borrowed $5,000 from my college fund to cover a bad loan she'd co-signed for my brother, Marcus. I took the heat from the financial aid office, lied about gambling it away on spring break, and watched her pat him on the back while I scrubbed dishes at the local diner to make it up. That was our family dynamic, Marcus, the golden boy, 2 years my junior, with his easy smile and endless excuses, Mom, the enabler who saw potential in his chaos, and me, the fixer, the scapegoat, the one who absorbed the fallout so they could keep pretending we were functional. Marcus had dropped out of community college after one semester, bounced between odd jobs, bartending, Uber driving, that one disastrous stint selling knockoff supplements online, and racked up debts faster than he could charm his way out of them. Mom called it entrepreneurial spirit. I called it a black hole. It started unraveling the summer before last, in the blistering heat of July 2024. Jake and I had set a date for the wedding, June of the next year. Nothing extravagant, just a backyard ceremony at his parents' place in Scottsdale, with string lights and a taco bar because we're nothing if not practical Southwest kids. I'd hit my savings goal that April, transferring the lump sum into a high-yield account under my name only, because I'd learned the hard way about family access. Mom threw a celebratory dinner at her McMansion in Ahwatukee, all crystal glasses and catered enchiladas, toasting to my brilliant daughter, the one who's got it all figured out. Marcus was there too, fresh off another business opportunity, this time a crypto scheme promising 300% returns. He was all manic energy, pitching it to Jake like it was the next Bitcoin, while Mom nodded along, her eyes glazing over with that familiar mix of pride and denial. 2 weeks later, The first withdrawal hit. $2,000. Listed as ATM transfer. I chalked it up to a glitch. Called the bank. Got the runaround. Then another $5,000 the next month. This one flagged as an electronic transfer to an account in Marcus's name. My stomach dropped like I'd been sucker punched. I drove straight to Mom's that evening. The dashboard clock ticking past 8 p.m. My hands white-knuckled on the wheel of my beat-up Honda Civic. She answered the door in yoga pants and a silk robe, a glass of Pinot Grigio in hand, looking every bit the suburban sophisticate unwinding after a spin class. "Alina, honey, what's with the face? You look like you swallowed a lemon." I shoved my phone under her nose. The banking app opened to the transaction history. "Explain this."
"Mom. Now."
Her smile faltered, just for a second, before she recovered with that patented Reyes deflection.
"Oh, that."
"It's nothing." Marcus had a little hiccup with his investments. "I figured you'd understand. Family first, right? Family first? This is my wedding fund. 7 years of my life in that account." "You didn't even ask." She waved a manicured hand, stepping aside to let me in, the cool blast of her central air hitting me like a slap. The living room was immaculate, white leather couches, abstract art from her last gallery phase, a massive flat screen muted on some HGTV flip. "Come on, drama queen. It's temporary. He'll pay it back. You know how he is, big ideas. Just needs a nudge." I sank onto the couch, my mind reeling. This wasn't temporary. This was theft. Plain and simple. But yelling wouldn't fix it. Not with Mom. She thrived on emotional jujitsu, turning your anger into your problem. "How much, Mom? Total?" She hesitated, sipping her wine, then sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. 15 grand so far. But it's fine. Your savings are insured or whatever. And Jake's got that shop dream. Maybe this evens it out. 15 grand. A third of everything gone.
Poof.
For Marcus's pipe dream. I wanted to scream, to grab that wine glass and smash it against the travertine floor. Instead, I stood up, voice steady as rebar. "This isn't evening anything. This is betrayal. If you touch another dime, we're done." She laughed, a tinkly sound that grated like nails on chalkboard.
"Done?
Over 15,000? Alina, you're being ridiculous." "Blood's thicker then. Save it." I cut her off, heading for the door. "Fix this, or lose me." That night, Jake held me as I cried into his chest, the salt of my tears mixing with the grease on his work shirt. "We'll rebuild it," he murmured, his calloused hands rubbing circles on my back. "You're worth more than any bank account." But even as he said it, I felt the fracture lines spreading through our plans, our trust, our fragile little future. The withdrawals didn't stop. By September, it was $28,000. Marcus's crypto nudge had tanked. Of course, some scam coin called Lunax that vaporized overnight. Mom called me twice, leaving voicemails that oscillated between apologies, "I'm handling it, sweetie," and guilt trips, "After all I've done for you." I ignored them, threw myself into work, started a side hustle tutoring law students online. Jake picked up extra shifts at the garage. But the math was brutal. At our pace, we'd need 3 more years to recover. Then, in October, the big one hit, $17,000 in a single transfer, wiping the account clean. I got the alert during a deposition, my phone buzzing under the table like a live wire. Excusing myself to the bathroom, I stared at the screen, heart hammering. The IP trace led straight to Mom's home network. That was it. The line crossed. No more fixer Alina. Time to fight dirty. I didn't confront her right away. Revenge, I've learned from too many case files, isn't a sprint, it's a marathon of moves and countermoves. First, I documented everything: screenshots, bank statements, even a subpoena-worthy trail of emails Marcus had foolishly left public on his LinkedIn, bragging about family backing his pivot to DeFi. Then, I called in a favor for my firm's forensic accountant, a grizzled ex-IRS guy named Hal who owed me for covering his ass during a messy audit last year. Alina. This is elder financial abuse in reverse, Hal grumbled over coffee at a Tempe diner, his bifocals slipping down his nose as he pored over the printouts. Your mom's got markers here, shell accounts, offshore hints. But it's sloppy. She's protecting him. Not herself. Protecting him. Always him. That's when the buried secret clawed its way back up. The one I'd shoved down since high school. It was 2008, the crash year, when Mom's first flip empire crumbled. Dad was gone. Bills were piling. And Marcus, 14 and already a sneak, had jacked a neighbor's BMW for a joyride, totaling it into a saguaro cactus on Loop 101. Mom made me take the fall. You're 18? Responsible, she'd said, coaching me through the police statement. He'll learn nothing from this. Juvenile record?
Mine.
Community service scrubbing graffiti in South Phoenix?
Mine.
The shame that kept me from scholarships, from that full ride to ASU? All mine. So Marcus could skate free, untouched. That secret had festered. A poison pill I'd swallowed to keep the peace.
But now?
Now it was ammunition. November brought monsoon rains to the valley, turning the freeways into rivers of red taillights and my resolve into tempered steel. Jake noticed the change first, how I'd stopped answering Mom's texts, how I'd spend evenings hunched over my laptop, eyes bloodshot from digging through public records. Babe, this fire in you. It's hot. But don't let it burn us, he'd say, pulling me into bed with a kiss that tasted like motor oil and mercy. I loved him for it, for seeing the warrior without flinching at the wounds. But mercy was for people who hadn't had their future stolen twice over. My plan crystallized over Thanksgiving.
Mom,
ever the optimist, had insisted on hosting turkey brined in agave, sides from her latest meal kit obsession, the whole performative Norman Rockwell bullshit. Marcus showed up late, hungover from a networking event in Tempe, his eyes darting like a cornered coyote. I played nice, passing the mashed potatoes with a smile that didn't reach my eyes, while Jake squeezed my knee under the table, his silent anchor. After dinner, as the rain sheeted against the floor-to-ceiling windows, Mom pulled me aside into her home office, a shrine to her success, with framed closing deals and a desk that cost more than my car. Alina, let's talk. Really talk. Her voice was honeyed,
conciliatory.
the robe swapped for a cashmere sweater that screamed, I'm the victim here. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Talk. Or confess.
She sighed,
Sinking into her ergonomic chair, gesturing for me to sit. I didn't. Okay. Fine. I took the money. All of it. Marcus. He's in deep. That crypto thing? It was supposed to be our ticket out, mine too. He promised returns, and I believed him. For once, I wanted to believe in something big. Big, like his joyride in high school, or the time he borrowed Dad's tools and pawned them for Coke money. The words slipped out sharper than I'd intended, the old wound ripping open. Her eyes narrowed. That cunning glint surfacing, the one that had closed million-dollar deals on bluffs alone. Don't you dare drag up ancient history. You took that hit because you were strong. Alina. Marcus was a kid. Fragile. Fragile, I echoed, the word tasting like bile. And I was what? Bulletproof? I lost everything because of your fragile son. Scholarships, friends who thought I was a delinquent. And now this, my wedding.
Mom.
Jake's talking about postponing. About maybe not at all, if we can't afford the basics. She stood then, all 5'6" of righteous indignation, her face flushing under the makeup. You think I don't know sacrifice? I built this life from nothing after your father ran off. Raised you both on my back. A few dollars. 45,000 isn't a few dollars. It's my security. My fresh start. You stole it for his fairy tale. And now you're gaslighting me into forgiving it. The rain pounded harder. A drumbeat to our standoff. Mom's flip began there. Subtle as a shadow shifting. One moment. Defensive, the next. Her shoulders slumped. Eyes welling with tears that I knew were half genuine. Half theater. You're right.
God.
You're right. I panicked. Marcus. He's all I have left of that hope. You know, the boy who could have been. Let me fix it. I'll liquidate some properties. Wire it back by Christmas. I wanted to believe her. The daughter in me, the one who'd idolized her boardroom battles, ached for the olive branch. But the paralegal, the one who'd seen too many affidavits turn to ash, spotted the tell, her glance at the desk drawer, where she kept her emergency checkbook. Another loan. Another deferral. No, I said, voice flat. Wire today. Proof of transfer. Or I'm calling the cops. Her jaw tightened, the tears drying like morning dew. Cops? On your own mother? For family business. It's not business. It's crime. Embezzlement.
Fraud.
I can prove it. The room went still. The only sound a relentless downpour. Then, slowly, she smiled, not warm, but predatory, like a realtor eyeing a distressed property. You wouldn't. Not my Alina. The good girl. Watch me. I left her there, the door clicking shut behind me like a gavel. Jake drove us home in silence, the wipers slapping rhythmically. You okay? He asked finally, as we pulled into our apartment complex off Mill Avenue. Not yet, I admitted, staring at the neon glow of the college bars across the street. But I will be. That night, alone in the kitchen while Jake slept, I fired up my laptop and started the real work. Hell had given me the blueprint, identity layering, debt shuffling. Mom's empire wasn't as ironclad as she thought. Public records showed liens on half her flips, co-signed with shell LLCs that traced back to Marcus. And her credit?
Spotty.
Patched with quick fixes, but vulnerable. Mine was a fortress. 820 FICO. Zero debt. Payments like clockwork. Years of being the responsible one had built an invisible arsenal. Step 1. Open shadow accounts. I used a VPN, routed through a burner email, applying for high-limit cards in variations of her name, Victoria Reyes.
V.
Reyes. Even Tori Victor. Piecing together aliases from old court docs. Approved for $50,000 in unsecured credit within days. Funneled into a trust I'd set up under Jake's aunt's name. She wasn't on it. Bless her meddling heart. Step 2. Max them out. Not on luxuries, on essentials that mirrored her lifestyle, property management fees to a P.O. box. Consulting payments to Marcus's latest venture. A vague real estate acquisition that bought nothing but time. By mid-December, I'd siphoned $30,000. Untraceable echoes of what she'd stolen. Mom wired back $10,000 the day after Thanksgiving, half measures. As expected, leaving me to rebuild while she played savior. But her voicemails shifted tone, less apologetic, more probing. Alina. Strange charges on my statements. You wouldn't know anything. I deleted them. Let the silence grow. Christmas Eve. Marcus called. Drunk. Slurring from some dive in Mesa. Sis. Mom's freaking. Says her cards are maxed. Can't close on that Tempe duplex. You gotta talk to her. Tell her to grow up, I snapped. The receiver slick in my palm. Like I had to. He laughed. Bitter and broken. Always the saint.
Huh?
You think you're clean? That joyride. Mom said you volunteered. Protected me 'cause you loved me. I did it because she made me. And look where it got us. Silence on his end. Then a hiccup.
Yeah. Well.
Karma's a bitch. He hung up. And I sat there in the dark. The tree lights twinkling mockingly.
Karma.
If only he knew. New Year's brought the flip I didn't see coming. Mom showed up at our door unannounced. New Year's Eve. Dressed to kill in a sequin top and heels that clicked like accusations on the linoleum. Jake was out grabbing champagne. I let her in. Stealing myself. Alina. We need to end this. End what? Your theft spree. She ignored the jab. Pulling a folder from her purse, thick. Official. Stamped with a notary seal. A contract. I sell the Awatuki house. Pay you back in full. Plus interest. 20 grand extra for.
Pain.
In exchange, you drop whatever games you're playing with my credit. My blood ran cold.
How?
I'd been careful. Layers on layers. I don't know what you're. Save it. She slapped the folder down. Her eyes hard as quartz. I hired a PI. Trace the VPN to your IP, sloppy. Honey. Desperation makes fools of us all. Checkmate. Or so she thought. But in her haste to corner me, she'd shown her hand. The PI report.
Clipped to the contract.
Detailed her own skeletons. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, funneled through Marcus's crypto LLC. Tax evasion. Money laundering whispers. The kind of dirt that could bury her empire. You're bluffing, I said, flipping through it. Heart racing. Am I? Sign. Or we both go down. Family sticks together. Right? The door opened then. Jake stumbling in with bags. His face lighting up until he saw us. Everything good. Mom turned on the charm. Hugging him like a long-lost son. Just finalizing details for the wedding.
Jake.
Alina's been so stressed. He bought it.
For now.
But as she left, her heels echoing down the hall, I knew the real game had begun. No more shadows. Time to step into the light and burn it all. January 2025 hit Phoenix like a hangover, chilly mornings giving way to that relentless sun, mocking any hope of a clean slate. Mom's contract sat on my nightstand like a loaded gun, and signed, while I plotted my counterstrike. Jake was worried, pacing our cramped living room with its thrift store couch and posters of Route 66 diners. This feels like The Godfather.
Babe.
Family vendettas end bad. It's not a vendetta, I lied, though the mirror showed otherwise, dark circles under my eyes. A tightness in my jaw that hadn't eased since Thanksgiving. It's justice. He pulled me close, his flannel shirt ruff against my cheek. Justice or revenge? Lines blurry when it's blood. Blurry? Sure. But after that PI report, the lines sharpened into knives. Mom wasn't just protecting Marcus. She was complicit, up to her pearls in his schemes. The Cayman's accounts started in 2019, right after his supplement bust, funneling returns from shady dropshipping that skirted FDA regs. And the kicker, a $200,000 wire to an offshore entity tied to a Phoenix cartel contact. Drugs? Guns? The report was vague. But vague in Arizona, whispers of meth labs in the Sonoran Desert. I couldn't go to the cops, not yet. Too many threads tied back to me, to that joyride I'd shouldered. One wrong pull, and we'd all unravel. So I went deeper, enlisting help full-time. We met in his cluttered office off Central Avenue, surrounded by stacks of ledgers and a coffee pot that hadn't been cleaned since Obama. "This is dynamite. Kid," he muttered,
Highlighting the cartel link.
"but lighting it means blowing yourself up too." "You sure?"
No.
But certainty was a luxury for people without $45,000 ghosts. Do it anyway. Get me leverage. Leverage came in February, disguised as a mediation session. Mom suggested it neutral ground, a conference room at my firm after hours, catered with Panera salads to keep it civil. She arrived with her lawyer, a slick Scottsdale type named Hargrove who reeked of cologne and contingency fees. Marcus tagged along, sober for once, in a button-down that hung loose on his frame. He wouldn't meet my eyes. We sat across the oak table, the fluorescent buzz overhead like a migraine. Mom led. All business. "Alina, we've reviewed the contract. Sign it, and we walk away clean. No hard feelings." Hargrove slid it over, pen at the ready. I flipped to the fine print, non-disclosure. Gag order on family matters.
Cute.
Clean? Like your Cayman's slush fund. The room iced over. Mom's fork paused midair, lettuce dangling. Marcus shifted, finally glancing up, his face ashen. "What the hell? Alina?" Hargrove cleared his throat. "Irrelevant allegations. Focus on the present."
Oh.
"It's relevant." I pulled my own folder thicker, courtesy of Hal's Digs, and dropped it center table. Printouts of wire transfers, LLC filings, even a grainy photo from the PI surveillance, Mom and Marcus at a dimly lit bar in South Phoenix, handing an envelope to a tattooed guy with cartel ink peeking from his cuff. "This is why you stole my fund. Not crypto hiccups. Real dirt." Mom's mask cracked. Just a hair, lips thinning. Eyes darting to Marcus, who looked like he'd puke. "You're bluffing." "That's nothing. Business associates." "Business? Try laundering." "I go to the feds. It's RICO charges." "You both fry." Hargrove jumped in, voice oily. "Threats won't." "Shut up," Mom snapped, her flip landing like a thunderclap. Gone was the conciliatory mom. In her place, the mogul, leaning forward with predatory calm. You think you're the only one with cards? That joyride? I have the real statement. Drafted by you. Signed in your hand. One call to the DA. And your records unsealed. Paralegal career? Poof. My pulse thundered. But I held steady. She'd finally weaponized the secret, dragging it into the light like a rotting fish. Marcus
Silentino.
finally spoke, voice cracking. Mom,
Don't. This is on me.
the rides, the money. I drag her into it. She whirled on him, eyes blazing. You, mister. Fragile needs protecting. Always has. Not from this, he whispered. Then to me, sis.
I'm sorry.
The cartel gig. It was supposed to be one haul. Quick cash. But it spiraled. Mom covered. I ran.
And you. God.
The car thing. I knew. Hated myself for it. Confession hung in the air, polarizing as a jury deadlock. Part of me softened, my little brother, broken but owning it. But the rest? Fury at Mom's flip-flop. Her endless pivots to save face. Hargrove fidgeted, sensing the shift. Perhaps we table this. No, I cut in.
Standing.
New terms. You confess to the theft, repay double, and cut Marcus loose. Rehab, real job, no more schemes. Or I walk with this to the U.S. Attorney. Mom laughed. Low and dark. Double? You'd bankrupt me. Better than prison. The session dissolved into chaos, shouts. Hargrove mediating. Marcus pleading. We adjourned, without signatures. But the seed was planted. That night, Jake and I drove to Sedona for a weekend reset, red rocks glowing under starlight as we hiked Devil's Bridge at dawn. If you stop now, he said, lacing fingers with mine, you're the bigger person. But am I? I countered, the vista blurring with doubt. Or just scared. He kissed my temple.
Both.
That's human. Back in Phoenix. The tension coiled tighter. Mom went radio silent. But Marcus didn't. Texts at 2 a.m. She's spiraling. Threatening to flip the house. Move to Mexico. I ignored most. But one gutted me. A photo of our old family album. Page opened to a snapshot of us kids at Disneyland. Mickey Ears Askew. Mom beaming between. We were happy once. Don't let her erase that. I didn't respond. But it haunted. By March, the climax brewed, an emergency family summit at her house. No lawyers. Jake came for backup. His presence a quiet bulwark. Mom had aged, lines etched deeper. Hair streaked more gray than blonde. Marcus looked hollowed out, nursing a Coke instead of beer. We gathered in the living room. Rain from an unseasonal storm lashing the windows. This ends tonight, Mom declared. Voice steel. I sign your terms, but with a caveat. You bury the past. All of it. No records. No grudges. I nodded, sliding over the repayment plan, $90K wired in installments. Marcus into NA meetings, me dropping the Fed threat. But as pens scratched paper, her eyes gleamed with that mummer's trick. One more thing, she said, adding a clause, full custody of family assets post-repayment. For stability. Stability? It was a Trojan horse, giving her control back. Loopholes to claw the money away later. Marcus spotted it first, crumpling his copy.
Mom. No.
That's the same game. Her flip was lightning, from penitent to predator. You ungrateful, after everything? He stood, voice rising. Everything?
You used me.
The cartel drop? Your idea? To teach me responsibility. Now, Alina pays. The room exploded. I grabbed the papers, ripping them. Game over. Feds it is. But Mom lunged, not violently, but desperate, snatching my arm.
Wait, please.
It's not what you think.
Tears now.
Real ones, spilling as she collapsed onto the couch. The cartel. It was to pay off your father's debts. He didn't leave clean, loan sharks. From his Vegas days. I protected you both. Marcus carried the runs so you wouldn't know. Twist upon twist. Dad's shadow. The buried patriarch. Poisoning us still. Marcus nodded.
Defeated.
She made it sound noble. But it broke us. Polarization peaked. Was Mom monster or martyr? Thief or shield? I stood there. Papers in shreds. The storm raging outside mirroring the one inside. Jake's hand on my shoulder grounded me. Your call. Alina. Mercy or mayhem. The line blurred. And I chose.
Both.
April bloomed with desert wildflowers. But our family wilted under the weight of truths half-spoken. I didn't call the feds, not yet. Instead, I brokered a fragile truce. Mom liquidated 2 flips. Wiring $60,000 immediate. The rest in escrow monitored by Hal. Marcus checked into rehab in Tucson. A dry-out facility with cacti views and group therapy that he swore would stick. For real this time. Sis, he texted from intake. A selfie showing him gaunt but determined. Mom? She retreated into silence. Selling the McMansion for a condo downtown. Her empire pruned to essentials. Jake and I rescheduled the wedding for September. Scaling back to courthouse simple. But the fire hadn't died. It smoldered. Reshaping me. At work, I pushed for partner track. Channeling the rage into briefs that shredded opponents. Nights. I'd dream of that joyride. The cactus exploding in headlights. Mom's voice coaching. Own it. Alina. Make it yours. The real climax hit in May. Unannounced as a hubbub. I got a call from Hargrove. Mom had OD'd on Xanax and Pinot. Found by a neighbor. Not fatal, but a wake-up slap. I drove to the hospital in Scottsdale. Jake trailing in his truck. The ER smelled of bleach and regret. Fluorescent halls echoing with beeps. She was in a private room. Courtesy of her insurance. Looking small under the thin blanket. Marcus was there already. Flown in from rehab on a compassionate pass. Holding her hand like a lifeline. Alina, she rasped as I entered. For dripping saline into her vein. You came. Family, I said. The word tasting like ash and absolution. Jake hung back. Giving us space. Her eyes. Cloudy with meds. Search mine. I ruined us. The money. The secrets. Trying to fix your father's mess. But I broke my babies instead. Marcus squeezed her hand. We broke together. Mom. The polarizing heart of it. No villains. Just survivors clawing through the muck. I'd stolen back in shadows. She'd stolen to shield, both thieves. Both victims. Why the flip? I asked. Voice cracking. Always another angle. Fear, she whispered. Of losing you. of being the bad guy. I sat then, taking her other hand, the three of us linked in a circuit of flaws. You're not the bad guy.
Just.
Human. Messy. We talked till dawn, real talk. No deflections. Dad's debts. The cartel runs, one haul. Botched. Leading to payoffs that spiraled. How she'd funneled my fund as a desperate bridge. Believing Marcus's lies about a legit flip. He confessed, too, the joyride as rebellion against her pressure. Me as the shield he resented but relied on. Discharge brought uneasy peace. Mom moved in with us temporarily, awkward dinners of takeout tamales. Jake's quiet diplomacy smoothing edges. She started therapy, the kind with a no BS shrink in Tempe who called out her enabler flips. Marcus graduated rehab in June, landing a gig as a sober companion. Ironic, but fitting. The wedding day dawned clear. 105 degrees. Our courthouse, affair spilling into Papago Park with blankets and craft beers. 50 guests, mix of Valley Misfits and Jake's Grease Monkey crew. Mom walked me down the aisle, shortened to a gravel path between saguaros, her arms steady, eyes dry. Proud of you, kid, she murmured. For forgiving what I couldn't. Vows exchanged. Rings simple gold bands warmed by the sun. As Jake kissed me, the world narrowed to his grin, the cheers fading to a hum. But revenge's echo lingered, a quiet victory in the rebuilt fund, now joint with Jake. Ironclad. The twist came in August, a manila envelope postmarked Vegas.
Dad.
Alive. Soberish. Dying of liver failure in a hospice off the strip. Heard through the grapevine, his letter read. Scrawled in shaky script. Knew about the debts. Meant to pay back. Too late now. But the kids.
Thou inside.
Enclosed, a cashier's check for $100,000. From some old casino settlement he'd squirreled away. Debate fodder. Karma's gift or guilt's bribe. Mom wept reading it. Marcus punched a wall then hugged her.
Me?
I deposited half into our honeymoon fund, Hawaii. Finally, and the rest to a trust for them.
For fixes, I said.
Real ones. Dad passed a week later. We didn't go. Some wounds scar over. Not heal. But as September's heat broke into fall monsoons, I stood on our balcony, overlooking the twinkling valley lights. Jake's arms around me. Mom's laughter drifting from the kitchen where she and Marcus prepped pozole. Ruin rebuilt. Not perfect, but ours. Was it happy? Tragic? You decide. In America, where dreams die daily and rise from the dust, revenge isn't an end, it's a pivot. And we pivoted, flawed and fierce, into whatever came next.